Good afternoon, good morning, or Shabbat Shalom, whatever it may be to you. This is Bill Bullock, and I'm coming to you live from the Biblical Lifestyle Center in Texarkana, USA. Welcome to our broadcast. I hope you'll enjoy as we talk about walking in the light. On this Sabbath, we will be studying the 41st episode of Walking in the Light, Parsha Pinchas, Numbers 25:10 through 29:40. That's our address for our discussions. We'll be digging in a little deeper. We call this walking in the light because we are seeking to find out where the Holy One, the creator of the universe, wants us to walk. We know that he's lit up a path for us. He's blazed a trail, and he wishes for humankind, and particularly his covenant partners, to follow in, and making then his covenant partners be the light bringers, the light bearers that blaze the trail for all the nations to follow. So our theme for this year of creation is walking in the light, and the subtitle or subtheme is discovering the secret wisdom encoded in Torah's timeless stories. Torah is not a law book. It is a collection of loving stories told by a storyteller that wants the best for his people. Those who read his stories, he wants them to be blessed. He wants them to be encouraged. He wants them to live full and meaningful lives. And he does that by shedding the light in front of them where they can walk. The word is a light unto my path and a lamp to my feet. So walking in the light, discovering the secret wisdom encoded in Torah's timeless stories. Every week as we do these studies, and I hope you've been joining me, and I hope you will join me in many weeks to come. But every week I begin these discussions by asking a few questions to you. It's Sabbath, and we want to change our focus away from the news and the troubles and the trials of the world and the stresses and the worries of the daily life. We want to enjoy our Savior, our Master, our Deliverer. We want to enjoy our King, our God. We want to enjoy our time with Him that He set apart, especially on the seventh day. So I have a few questions to get you thinking on a seventh day Sabbath level of spirituality. First question, are you ready? Okay. Do you ever think about the kind of legacy that you will leave behind when your allotted time, a lot of days on earth come to a close? Do you think about what kind of legacy you are building right now and you are trying to leave to your children or your children's children or those who come after you in your bloodline? Do you think about the legacy? First question. Second question is, what is the scroll that is presently being written in heaven concerning your life, your bloodline, and your family? What does it say? What is in it? What are the contents of it? What is the tone of it? What is being done through your life and through your bloodline to make the world a better place to live, to bring about the fullness of the grand plan of the creator of the universe? What's being done? What's being written in the scroll that has your name on it in the heavens? Third, what kind of mark, impact do you wish to leave upon the world? And your life is a few days. Our lives are all just a few fleeting moments of time. How do you want your life to impact the world? How do you want it to impact even your own family and your bloodline? How do you want it to impact the spheres of influence that the Holy One has given you to engage with? How do you want it to impact your generation, the era in which you live? How do you want your life to leave a mark on the earth's ecosystem for those who come after you, those who follow you? How do you want the world to be a better place for them than it was for you when you got here? These are questions we're asking to get you thinking on the kingdom level of the Sabbath day. And a few more questions for you. Are you ready? What is your paradigm of priority? What's the most important thing to you? What do you think the Holy One wants the most important thing or things to be about your life? These are important questions to be thinking about as we enter into the sweetness of the Sabbath. And we seek wisdom from the counsel of the Holy One. We have to be thinking in His terms, in His ways. So what is your paradigm of priorities, dear ones? What inspires you? What gets you excited and energized? What motivates you to do what you need to do and what you want to do to build the legacy you wish to leave and affect the world, impact the world and the generation you live in the way in which you want to, and the Holy One wants you to touch the world? What motivates you? What are you zealous about? Now, we're in Parsha Pinchas, and it's all about zeal. This word in English that we read, it's in Hebrew, it's kana or kine, depending on which term, which phrase you choose. But the idea is, in English, we call it zeal. What's it mean? And what are you zealous about? Are you zealous about anything, or are you melancholy, or are you chill? Are you mellow? Well, are you zealous about anything? What makes you zealous? What are you zealous about? What is it that gets you off of dead center or high center? What makes you come out of your comfort zones and do something and get engaged with the world? What kind of things make you come out voluntarily from your cocoon of normalcy that most people live in all their days? What is it about you, though, that knows there's more to life and cause you to come forth from your cocoon of normalcy? What causes you to break free of the inertia of the routine? Most people are so trapped in the inertia of routine things, just repeating, it's always been this way, it'll always be this way. What makes you break free? What helps you to break free from the inertia of the routine? What makes you engage issues and people and situations in the world in a legacy building, world changing way? Those are questions to be asking as we begin our discussions today. Let's think about it for a while. What is important to you? What was important to Pinchas, you think? What was important? Then we're going to talk also about Moshe. What was important as he looked at the end of his life? As he began to be told, this is the end of your life and you will leave and someone else will take your place. And this is the discussion found in our Torah portion. What about the daughters of Zelophehad? We will meet them for the first time in our Torah narrative. And they will be thinking about this issue of heritage, of legacy. And they think about their father's legacy. And they want to honor their father by making sure he has a legacy in the future, in the promised land. We'll think about all those who are counted on the plains of Moab, because they will take the place of a previous generation that was given the opportunity to affect the world, to impact the world. And they did so in some ways, but in some ways they retraced their steps, went back and wanted to go back to Egypt. And so they couldn't have the full level of legacy impact that they were called to have. Instead, they died in the desert. A whole generation, the previous census that was taken, reflected those names, but the names of the ones who will impact the future by taking over the promised land and building a launching pad for the invasion of the heavens into the earth and causing it to be on earth as it is in heaven. That generation, that people, that census of people, that has a heritage and a legacy they're building on the plains of Moab. So what is important to you? What was important to them? Is important for you, do you think, to promote and advance in their home, in your discussions with your children and your spouse and your grandchildren if you have them, in your uncle, your aunts and uncles, your nephews and nieces, your cousins? What do you think is important to talk about? What do you think is important to show as you're excited about it, enthused about it, in your home, in your marketplaces, in your interactions on social media, in every forum, including the cyber world forum? What is important for you to promote and advance? What also is important for you to guard against and defend against and protect your home and your family and your marketplace and your forum against and preserve pure and inviolate as opposed to being corrupted and polluted by things? What is important to you in that regard to leave us? This is legacy stuff we're talking about here. This is an important impact level upon your community and your generation and your bloodline. What also is important to you to take a stand against? There are many battles we could fight in this world. Many people want to fight every battle. They want to attack everything they don't like. But you see, you can't succeed that way. You have to pick your battles, and the Holy One would ask you, I would ask you to joining with the Holy One to ask you, what is important enough for you to take a stand against? Is it just ideas and concepts and theories and political statements, or is it something deeper that is required for you to take a stand and to resist, to waste the opportunity of conciliation and reconciliation and restoration in order to take a stand? What is important to you to pass down to your children and your children's children and those who follow after you, even those who come in line with your household and your ways? What is important to you? Now, those questions being asked, the next question is, how zealous are you? How zealous are you, dear ones? How zealous are you for the Holy One, your God, who brought you out of Egypt to be your God? How zealous are you for him? How enthused, how excited, how passionate are you about him? And for his holy things, the Torah, for instance, or in his Mashiach, his Messiah, his holy nation, his holy land of Israel. How zealous are you for his house? How zealous are you, beloved? These are the important questions of Parsha Pinchas. How zealous are you for his grand plan for the redemption of mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline, household by household, individual by individual, as many as will come to the sound of his voice? How zealous are you for that? How zealous are you for the second part of his plan, which is to restore all of creation's ecosystem to its original Edenic state of beauty, fruitfulness, shalom, and harmonious interaction? How important is that to you? How zealous are you for it? And what do Torah's stories and Torah's testimonies, including those we find in Parsha Pinchas? Torah stories about people like Pinchas and Zimri and Kulsby and the daughters of Zelophehad and Moshe and Yehoshua, Joshua as the world knows, and the Kohanim and the Levi and the people responsible for the Tamid, the daily presentations at the temple and at the brazen altar. How important are these things to you? Do you think they are in passing on, developing and passing on your legacy? Well, beloved, how important do you think also intimate moments of communion between you and your Creator? How important do you think such intimate moments of communion between you and your Creator are to your legacy and the plan of it? What do such intimate moments of communion between you and the Creator look like and consist of? Are they just theory and dream, or are they real? Do you really have intimate moments of communion and fellowship with the Creator of the universe? Do you walk together? Do you talk together? Do you draw off of his energy and his strength? And do you take into yourself his Kedusha? These are the questions that we have to ask about your legacy. What patterns, when you do enjoy some level of intimacy and communion with the Holy One, and fellowship with him, what patterns do you follow on a Sabbath level, on a week level, on a new moon level, month by month, on a annual level, with regard to the times and seasons of the Holy One as he's described them for us in Leviticus 23 and in the calendar of the redeemed? How important are these, and what patterns do you follow in regard to those? These are matters we will discuss in Parsha Pinchas. The stories that we read in Torah, the stories of Pinchas and the sons of Korach and Nadav and Abihu, these are all people we will be discussing. We've heard about them before, but we hear them about them again. The sons of Korach, who are still alive. We find out in Numbers 26:11, part of this parsha, that the sons of Korah miraculously have survived. How could they possibly have survived? Well, we read about a few weeks ago about the earth opening up and swallowing Korah and his entire family. How did they survive, and what does it mean that the sons of Korah are still alive? What does it mean? What are the stories we read about Moshe's missing lineage, Moshe's missing genealogical heritage? We never find out what happened to his sons. We're finding out what other people's sons, what happens to them, other people's daughters, what happens to them, but we're not finding anything about what happened to Moshe. What happened to Moshe's legacy? We're reading it. We're studying it. It's not a legacy like most people would have thought, or like Aaron had, and he passed it down to Eleazar, or like the daughters of Zelophehad received from their father. This is a legacy that is so special and includes the whole of Torah, especially the book we'll start reading in a couple of weeks, the book of Devarim, of Deuteronomy, as it's called in the Western world. So how important are these stories that we read of the passionate cry of the daughters of Zelophehad to give their father the honor of a heritage through them becoming heirs of the promised land themselves? How important are the stories about the Tamid, the daily presentations that are made in the temple, or the tabernacle at that time, at the brazen altar in the outer court? What does that mean? Why are we told all these things? What has it got to do with legacy? All these things, these stories that we read, beloved, remind us that our choices and our words and our actions on a day-by-day basis, on a month-by-month sequence, every Sabbath by Sabbath and year by year, all our choices and words of action and actions have both short-term and cross-generational long-term consequences. And what we're going to learn is that what is not important in life has a whole lot to do with how we feel or what our opinion is in a moment of time, frozen in space, than we thought it did, and has a whole lot more to do with our covenant calling and the things that the Holy One spoke to Abraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to Moshe and Aaron and Bnei Israel at Mount Sinai and beyond in the wilderness. These things have a whole lot more to do with our legacy and our cross-generational impact on the world than we ever imagined in that regard. So this is the Parsha of Pinchas, the Parsha of defining legacies. The Parsha of defining legacy. Are you ready? Is it your time? Is it your moment to start taking account of how much of a legacy you're leaving in the world and what you need to do to focus the rest of your time upon earth on building that legacy and having that impact on the world? The future lies before us, you see. The world is a half blank canvas. Some things are already written on it, but there is so much more yet to be written. So many more areas of the canvas to be painted upon. It is our canvas to paint upon. The world, our families, the nations that rage, the peoples that imagine vain things. These are all waiting upon us, looking at us askance, saying, "What will you write upon the canvas? What will you paint out? What will be the legacy you leave? Will you leave the world better than you found it, or won't you? What do you want your legacy to be, beloved? And what are you willing to invest and sacrifice to make that a reality?" Well, with that, we'll do our call to worship. We have a few more minutes to talk. With that, our call to worship will be the blessing before reading from the Torah called the Baraku. Sing with me if you know it. Let's get our hearts open, our minds ready to receive from the King's message table. Call to worship. Baraku. Baruch Adonai Hamborah. Baruch Adonai Hamborah Leolam Daed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bakar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notei HaTorah. Amen. So be it. And now, would you open our eyes, O Holy One, our God, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah. For we are just strangers in this earth, so please do not hide your commandments, your instructions for living from us. Oh, and now, gather around, children of the Most High. The storyteller is ready, and it is story time again. Let's set the stage for the stories of Parsha Pinchas. I'll start with location. Where are we? We're on the plains of Moab, on the eastern side of the Jordan Rift Valley, overlooking that valley and overlooking the river down at its bottom, and standing opposite and barely seeing in the sunset to the west, Jericho, the place the world knows as Jericho. We are at the end of the road of 40 years of journeying through the wilderness. That's where we are, the plains of Moab, a place called Shittim. The King James Version calls it Acacia Grove. This is our last stop, the end of the road of the journey before we begin the next adventure. We'll be here for a few weeks while Moshe gets us ready. As he prepares to leave, that's where we are. He'll turn us over to Joshua, very soon. We've got the location fixed now. What's the time period? It's near the end of the 40th year after the Exodus, the end of the wilderness journeys. A few weeks before Moshe bids us farewell, that's where we are. What is the place of these stories in the macro story, the larger story? Well, our season as a developing a nation of Bnei Israel, the people of the more excellent way, this is in place. That's the bigger story going on. We're being developed into a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, special treasure people that acts as a snow globe people for the rest of the world and the nations to watch and learn from it, possible, or be angry about it, if that's the way they wish to choose to do it. We're the snow globe people. Those people are now fully alive and in place, in position on the plains of Moab. The wilderness journey season, the season of testing and trial, is over. Next up, final preparations for final re-entering and retaking possession of the land of the patriarchs, the great kingdom beachhead, the testing area, the trial area from which we will launch the invasion of the heavens into the earth. What's the latest micro portion of the story? We talked about the macro story and what the B'nai Israel nation building protocol is, but what's the latest little story within the bigger story? That's the great falling away. We have just completed the narrative in chapter 25, 1 through 9, of the great falling away. It's prophetic of the end of days. And in the narrative of our story, the storyteller's discussion, it is known as the seduction of Benot Midian, the daughters of Midian, or the daughters of Moab as well, and the sin of Baal Peor, the god of the chasm, the god of the opening. What are the times and seasons context? So everything in Torah that we read comes as we read it in the context of a developing season of the times and seasons of the king. What are the times and season context of this story, of this series of stories? It's the 3 weeks between the straits. The waning moon of the month of Tammuz, the 4th month of the biblical year, is on us. And the nations are attacking us. The nations are raging against us. This is what goes on this season. And our king, or at least his palace, is in check. If you want to think of this as a great chess game, it looks like the nations have our king, or at least his palace, the temple in Jerusalem, in check. Well, the closing download, the last part of the details of the story of what happened with Baal Peor and the daughters of Midian and Moab. It started with chapter 25 of Numbers. It says, Israel remained in Shittim, which we've said is called Acacia Grove in the King James Version. And the people began to commit harlotry with the women of Moab, who had invited the people to sacrifices of their gods. And who then the people went with them and ate of those sacrifices and bowed down to those gods. The great falling away has taken place. And so in this manner, Israel was joined to Baal Peor. Instead of being unified in one in closeness and intimacy with the creator of the universe, they bowed themselves down to and became unified horribly with a false god, Baal Peor, the god of the openings of the chasm. Well, the heat of the Holy One was aroused against Israel. That's the micro part of the story. This heat of the Holy One, what does it do? When you get exposed to the heat of the Holy One, what happens to you? The Holy One said to Moshe, take all the princes of the people. This was his instructions last week. Take all the princes of the people and hang the offenders, or suspend the offenders on poles before the Holy One out in the sun, so that the fierce heat of the Holy One may turn away from all Israel. Oh, so there will be some they'll put on poles, on wooden poles, and those ones who are the guilty party, who bear the guilt, will then take away the heat from all of the nation of Israel. That was what was said. That was the instructions from on high last week. But it wasn't followed, was it? So Moshe said, he turned around after he heard these things from the Holy One, he said to the judges of Israel, El Shoftei Israel, to the leaders of the community, every one of you, he said, Moshe said, Harag, strike so as to kill those of your men who have been binding themselves to Baal Peor. It's a little bit different language than the Holy One told him to use, to instruct, and a little different motion, but we have definitely this declaration either way, that those who have been guilty of dealing with Baal Peor and surrendering to the seduction of the daughters of Midian and Moab, they, alas, have forfeited their rights, their legacy, and they must be removed from the community and from life. That's the instruction. It's hanging in the air, and no one's doing anything about it. No one wants to do that. It's an unpleasant thought, but it is what the Holy One has said needs to be done. And indeed, then, one of B'nai, since no one did anything, one of B'nai Israel, we're going to find his name in this week's Parsha, came and presented to his brethren Midianite, daughter of Midian, in the sight of Moshe, in the sight of the whole witness throng, who were weeping at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. All this micro story is getting some color to it now. And so we have the nation, at least those who are faithful to the Holy One, have gathered around the tabernacle and are weeping and praying. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall obtain, for they will be comforted. This is the thing that we're going to read about. Why were they mourning? Mourning for the sin and the heat of the Holy One that was coming upon Israel and the world by reason of these misbehaviors and this great falling away. And now we have this one man, this prince of the brethren of the tribe of Shimon. His name will be revealed this week as Zimri. And he will come forth and he'll bring this Midianite princess who is of the name Cosbi, and they will come together in front of these people who are weeping in the tabernacle. They come into the very tabernacle, the very holy place of the Holy One. They'll go inside the holy tent. Heaven forbid. And they'll desecrate. They have no value, show no value to the holy things of the Holy One. And they desecrate that with a horrendous act of worship, prostitution, occult prostitution, to the honor of Baal Peor, right in the tents of the Holy One. This is not good. And then when Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, now we have our first character. When Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, son of Aharon, HaKohen, the priest, saw, when he opened, his eyes were open and he saw these things developing before him, he arose from the witness throng, the Edah, and he took a lance or a spear in his hand, and he followed the man of Israel, Zimri, into the tent of meeting, the tabernacle, the holy place, which was his responsibility, and he thrust both of them, that's both Zimri and Cosbi, through the man of Israel, and the woman through the body, and killed them. He enacted the decree that the Holy One had given to the leaders, but they had not followed, and to the princes, but they had not followed. And thus, the Holy One, Torah says, the story concludes, the plague. A plague? The plague was stopped. Although among B'nai Israel, before it stopped, 24,000 died in the plague. Now, we have learned that there are existential threats to humanity, and particularly to B'nai Israel, which most affects us. And those existential threats are basically classified as war or the sword. Famine, which we've seen many times before, and we know we'll see again. Plague or pestilence, which is what we're seeing take place in the tents, in the community of the redeemed, by virtue of the plague of the daughters of Midian. And then the fourth one will be the calamities of earthquakes and volcanoes and calamitous storms throughout the world. These are the things of the latter days, the things of the four horsemen that bring death upon the earth. The apocalyptic story, these four existential threats. This is the third: sickness, plague, pestilence. We will see these develop greater and greater in the end of days, where we see the pictures drawn for us, the images drawn for us in Parsha, Pinchas. Oh, it's not the first plague we've seen. It won't be the last one we've seen either. But a plague was breaking out, and now Pinchas had to decide what his legacy would be. It's a tough decision because some of these things are not pleasant to think about. But he knew what the Holy One's word said, and what it said to him as a guardian of the tabernacle. His job as a priest, as a son of Aaron, the Kohen, the high priest, as a son of he was responsible for the sanctuary that had to be taken care of. And so he took responsibility. He was a first responder. And he came as a first responder and did what first responders do, took the tough decisions. So pestilence is now upon us in the camp. 24,000 are dead, and many more will die unless Pinchas steps up and does what he has to do. So how are you at plague, pestilence management protocol? Do you know what to do? How to guard your family and your household and your bloodline and take care of your generation in a time of plague and pestilence? We've seen recently what they call the pandemic. And you see how people mess that up really badly and cause great harm to the world and to the children of the world. How are we going to handle it when the plague and the pestilence hits us? Prepare to leave a legacy of hope and life, not a legacy of death and fear and destruction. All right, how do we deal with a plague of pestilence or famine or war or rumors of war or calamitous events of the ecosystem's weather? How do we deal with these things responsibly? Do we have the Holy One's heart? Do we know what he wants? Do we understand his passion and his goal and his end game? Do we understand how these things can fit and he can bring good out of these things? And if so, what we need to do to cooperate with that plan? Do we have his mind, the Holy One, the Creator's mind, or just our own opinions and a bunch of propaganda that's spelled out by a bunch of people who don't know what they're talking about? Do we have the Holy One's mind? Do we have his will? Do we have his wisdom? Are we accessing it? Have we been intimate with him? Have we had communion with him? Have we had fellowship with him as he has prescribed in accordance with his ways? Have we followed his words when we've received them? Have we walked in accordance with his ways? Do we have his zeal? Zeal is much more than you may think. It's not just passion or emotion. Zeal is actually the wisdom of the Holy One applied to the situation at hand and without backing down, without being afraid. So here we are in Parsha Pinchas, the opening verse of our Parsha. It starts with the divine speech. And the Holy One spoke to Moshe, and he said, these are the words of the living God. Pinchas ben Eleazar ben Aaron HaKohen. Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the grandson of Aaron the Kohen, Heshiv et Hamati mea b'nei Israel. He returned my passion to its rightful place among b'nei Israel. B'kano et kinati betokam. And in his zeal, he stirred and awakened my zeal within them, that is my people. V'lo kiliti et b'nei Israel b'kinati. And thus I did not declare my work with B'nai Israel complete or finished in my zeal. That's how it starts. It goes on, Lachen emor hineni. And therefore, the Holy One says to Moshe, Hineni, behold, naten lo et piti shalom. And I will bequeath to him the shalom, the peace, the well-being, the wholeness of my covenant. V'hayitalo al zarao kriya, that it may be to him this peace, this shalom, and to his seed after him his legacy. Brit kehunat olam dekat, and a covenant of everlasting priesthood or ambassadorship to the world. Asher kinele Elohai, and he was zealous for his God. V'achaferen b'nei Israel, and he made kippur, covering the heels for b'nei Israel. Oh, beloved, what a story. What a story of the end of days. It's someone who will arise in the wisdom and the knowledge of the Holy One's will and ways and do what is necessary to heal, to restore, and bring back the plan of the Holy One and stop the plagues and the pestilences that are going on. Our outline for this Parsha as we get ready to conclude this discussion. Outline of Parsha 41. First, the covenant of eternal shalom and priesthood with Pinchas. Pinchas is remembered not just for an act of killing, but for knowing the heart of the Holy One and for following his directions specifically, no matter what anybody else thought. He did not act out of anger. He did not act out of vigilante vengeance. He acted in accordance with the instructions of the Holy One, and a realm of authority he had total responsibility and would bear the burden for, which was the tabernacle's sanctity. The things that Zimri and Cosby were doing were not just in their own tents, in their own private lives somewhere, or in the world out there among the rich nations. No, they brought it all right into the tabernacle, the El Moed tent. So the Pinchas has the eternal covenant, is given this reward, this legacy. And then we have the result of what the legacy of the Midianites. Since the Midianites participated in this process and this seduction of this great falling away, they were the instruments chosen by the serpentine heart to be used against the Bnei Israel to seduce them. Then there is they have bought the legacy of war, of death and destruction. They didn't have to do that. They made that choice, and that was a negative choice, a wrong choice. Their daughters came and tried to seduce the men of Israel and were successful, and they must bear the price. That's the second level of how legacy works its way into our story. Then there's another season of lifting of the heads of what's called a census in the English language. And the Holy One tells Torah to count the peoples that he's giving back to the Holy One. He took over the flock back whenever they left Egypt, and he numbered them shortly after they left Egypt. And now, as he prepares 40 years later to turn the flock back over to the Holy One to be given to somebody else, namely Yehoshua, he takes a census again to give an accounting, full accounting of what he's done. A new season of lifting the heads, because this particular group of people is the ones who will go into the land, and they will claim the land and be apportioned, allotted, a tribal allotment and a family allotment in the land. And so that brings up the daughters of Zelophehad, whose father died among the wilderness and had left no sons, but he left 5 daughters. And the daughters say, honor our father by giving to us his daughters, carry his name, the inheritance he would have had if he had lived, or if he had had sons to pass it down to. And the Holy One says, oh, yes, yes, the passion, the zeal, the connection to the Holy Land, the holy things of God, the desire to process through things through the protocols of the kingdom. That I admire, that I approve. And then we have the last message of the Holy One about what happened at Rephidim, at Meribah, where Moshe struck the rock instead of speaking to it as he was instructed to do. And he vilified the people, and he yelled and screamed at them and called them rebels, and took upon himself as if he had the power himself without the Holy One to bring forth water from the rock. Whenever he bears the consequences of that, and the Holy One says, go up and take one last look at the land across the Jordan Rift Valley, the land of the Avarim, the hills of the Promised Land. Go look at it, see it from stem to stern. Look at it, but you will not go over, but enjoy the view, and then come back and invest all your love, all your energy, all your anointing into Yehoshua. He will take your place. He will lead the people into that land. We'll see Moshe. What will I do now that I know this? How will I respond? He says, oh, appoint a man. Appoint a man to lead them in, to lead them out. Don't let them be like sheep without a shepherd. Oh, we hear the heart of the Holy One coming out of Moshe at this stage. He's not angry. He's not hurt. He's not claiming he's a victim of circumstance. He's seeing the future. He's leaving a legacy behind of humble surrender to the will of the Holy One. And finally, the parsha will end with a discussion of something that seems strange. The daily presentations, evening and morning, in the tabernacle, in the tent of meeting, in the open air, outer court, at the brazen altar, the times of intimate communion fellowship between the Holy One and his people, one by one and as a nation. What will it cost to have intimate fellowship? Not just make sacrifices and give offerings out of responsibility or obligation, but to actively seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness by going according to the protocols and the ways and the plans of the Holy One. Now, in our world, we look at these things and say, how could these things be important for the daily offerings, daily presentations, the things that are mentioned upon the new moon, or each individual festival that are discussed? We see all these things, and he tells us what to do, how to approach him on these particular days, and keep it going, keep that fire burning, keep the passion going, and keep the zeal strong. That's what he tells us to do. And we say, well, we can't do that. We don't want to. It's offensive to us to even think that somehow we would make these presentations. Well, there is no tabernacle now, not physical like a structure. There is no outer court. There is no blazing altar of burnt offering, Holocaust in that open courtyard. We Instead, in our hearts and our minds, we, within our neshama, our God-breathed spirits, we become the temple of the Holy One. And these strategies, these protocols, these different steps of stages of how we're to be intimate with the Holy One and get communion with Him and get His will and draw His energy and draw His Kedusha into us and operate in that way so we can fulfill the plan and the purpose that we have upon the earth. These things are still viable. We just do it through meditation. We do it through prayer. We do it through understanding. We do it through study. We do it by virtue of lending our hearts and our minds to the Holy One to use, to teach us His ways. Well, beloved, my time with you is now over. I hope you've enjoyed our time together, our discussions together. I hope now you're walking in the light more than you were before. I would encourage you, if you want to go to see more about this Parsha or any of the Parshas, you can go to the biblicallifestylecenter.org. It's all one word, biblicallifestylecenter.org. That's our website. We have a page called the Rabbi Sun page, and that has many things on it, but including the archives of all the past studies we've done. They're written studies. There's 6 per each Parsha, and that includes Parsha Pinchas. So there's so much there, so much richness to look at. I encourage you to go. There's no charge for going. But if you're there, and if you go, and if you enjoy what you see, and you believe the Holy One's tells you this is a good place for you to be, and things you can learn from, and you wish to donate or give some money, then we definitely need money to carry on this ministry, carry on this activity for you. So push the donate button and give whatever the Holy One lays upon your heart. We don't charge for these services. We don't demand that you give anything. We don't tell you have to do this to get blessed. But if you desire, we would certainly appreciate it. We would be remembered forever. Make it maybe perhaps part of your legacy. Well, Shabbat Shalom. It's time for me to leave you now. See you next week.